from Albany right now. Ben, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Phil.
Wave, they want to see if you're alive. There we go. Okay. We've got Lance Ford. Lance, can you hear us okay? Lance is coming from Oklahoma. Did it snow there today?
No snow here today. We finally have thawed out a little bit, so I'm very happy about that.
Great. And we've got John Kern at GE Global. He's right down there on the bottom, okay, which is up in Niskayuna. And as you look in some of our classrooms, because we have a group of kids here, we also have a group of kids in C9, which is our Cisco room. They're waving to us, not like that. And Mr. Phillips' room, which is in D26. Okay, so we can see those kids there. So they're kind of being brought in from the different areas. First of all, I want to thank Cisco for helping us set it up. I want to thank Mike Ladd, John Cope, Dave Liu, Carol McGillen for all their help getting this set up. We really appreciate it. I've kind of introduced the people on the screen. We also have some panelists here. We have Amira Padilla from GE Global, and she's been instrumental in helping orchestrate our Inspire program. We appreciate her coming in. Jeff Korkowski, class of '88, Mount Pleasant.
So it's a lot of fun to come back to the area. I haven't lived here in close to 20 years, so it's always nice to come back and see how things have changed. And some folks are still around, so I enjoy seeing them as well. From my perspective, it was a great advantage to grow up in such a diverse area, meeting people from different cultures. I already had that background. I didn't need to learn much. Working with different people, learning how to build relationships, I think was a great advantage for me. Didn't have a ton of resources to use, so I had to kind of put myself through a lot of things. So I think growing up here was a great advantage for me.
Set every regular season baseball record under my tutelage in the 1980s. Okay, maybe not, but we'll leave that alone. Okay? And we also have Kathy Dunn from Nanotech.
So they're having a career workshop for STEM careers, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. And they wanted to have some broad perspectives about what careers are available in those areas. So I was here representing nanotechnology and professors in higher education.
And she's here also to talk about some nanotech. We're going to ask a lot of different questions. I know that a lot of kids have some kind of concerns or kind of thinking about their future, what kind of jobs are out there, and there's a lot of interesting things going on in the market. What we're going to do, and also our student moderator is Jeremy Sagai. Jeremy, wave. There we go. And we're going to get all the panelists started right now, just spending a couple minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, kind of talking about their job and their education. And I think we're going to start with Lance.
So guys, welcome to Southeast Oklahoma. I am a teacher by training. That's what I've been brought up to do. I spent 15 years of my life in common education training students how to do things like sing, how to play band instruments. Also working with students on video production. I taught Final Cut Pro for 3 years of my life. And the last 2 of those 3 of those evenings, I spent training teachers how to use interactive video in the classroom from here. And this is now my world. My job is now morphed into training teachers all day, every day. And I also teach graduate course for the University of Maine in Farmington. It meets on Tuesday evening, so this evening when I'm done with you guys, I'll be working with them live video and a lot of different modalities. So I guess at the core, it's who I am, it's what I do, I teach folks. It's my privilege to join you today. Thanks for listening.
Good, thank you very much. Mr. Kern, will you introduce yourself next?
Sure thing. Good morning, everyone. My name is John Kern. I'm here at the GE's Research Center over in Niskayuna. It's my pleasure to be speaking to you as well today. I lead a team of folks that study and work and do research and development in power systems. So you may know GE does everything from large generators and turbines, but also wind and solar. And my team is working very hard on ways to make the grid better and smarter and do things with more of those renewable energy sources. So it's a place that's very exciting to work at, and I've been here for close to about 8 years now. I've been with GE about 12 years. And in my previous life, I was actually lucky enough to be in the Navy, running around on submarines. So it's really a pleasure to be talking to you today, and I look forward to speaking with you some more.
Okay, thank you very much. And last but not least, Mr. Hellis, can you introduce yourself, please?
Certainly. My name is Benjamin Helis. I am an SE for Cisco Systems, and I am originally from Indiana and live in upstate New York here in Albany. And my role consists of meeting with customers and providing them with solutions that meet their needs. My customer base is primarily education and local and state municipalities.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we're going to ask you guys to introduce yourselves, so I guess we'll start with you.
Sure. My name is Omayra Padilla de Jesus. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. I've been in upstate New York since 2003, going from Puerto Rico to California, then upstate New York, because I just was going from colder to colder, and or from hot to colder. And my background is actually chemistry. I got my bachelor's degree at the University of Puerto Rico. Then I went to UC Berkeley for my PhD. And the kind of stuff is all related to health sciences. The kind of stuff we do is pretty much how can we make agents better so that if we want to see what's wrong with you, we can inject it into you, put you in a machine and see what's going on, okay? Or other stuff like developing products where you can pee on it, or we can take some of your blood, put it on it, and say, you know what, this person not only has this problem, but probably the best way to treat that is this way. So that's the kind of stuff we do.
Okay.
My name is Jeff Kwiatkowski. I'm with Dimension Data. The folks from Cisco probably know us pretty well. And in fact, I think John is sitting in one of the rooms that we put together. We're a global systems integrator. We do everything from global telepresence systems to information security, internet security, to data center builds. I manage my customers' relationships with my company. I work with a couple of Fortune 5 financials in New York, and I'm happy to be here today.
I'm Kathy John. I'm a professor over at the Nano Center in Albany, which you may have seen stuff about us on TV or in the news, or maybe even toured over there. I'm originally from the Massachusetts area and went to school in New York and then in Wisconsin for my PhD. Came back to New York because there's a great opportunity there to get started in nanotech that is really on the ground floor. And so I teach at the university, and I also do, most of my time is spent doing research. They're making the circuits that make up your cell phone or your Nintendo Wii faster and lighter so that you can have more functionality.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have a set of questions here today, and we're going to start out with Mr. Ford. So our first question is, how has your career changed since you've joined the workforce?
So when I first began teaching, obviously I had to be where my students were physically. And that continued to morph. It started about 11 years ago, from me teaching just students in my local room to me teaching remote students at 4 or 5 sister sites. My first class I actually teach was AP Music Theory. From there, what happened was I began training teachers. And again, I would drive or fly to wherever those teachers were. I would train them, and then I would come home. At this point, today, I was just looking at the calendar. I'm working with you all now in Schenectady. Next, I will be headed to Pennsylvania. After that, I'll be headed to Utah. When I'm done with that, I'm headed to the University of North Carolina. And then I will teach my graduate course at the University of Maine, upon completion of which I will go home and eat dinner with my family without ever leaving this location. So for me, the transition has been absolutely amazing from losing all my time traveling to now getting to do what I do like this.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kern, I'm going to ask you the same question. How has your career changed since you've joined the workforce?
Well, I'd say certainly the advent of the internet has dramatically changed it in so many ways that I think are well evident to a lot of people. But clearly, the ability to communicate instantaneously with people across the country or across the globe is just astounding. Our ability to work around the clock on a 24-hour schedule is a pretty amazing thing. Where when I first started working, I could come to work during the day. Here in upstate New York, send some emails off at the end of the day, and then come back in the morning, and another crew on the other side of the world had been working on those questions for their part of the day, and literally was able to just keep things going that much faster and faster and faster. I think that was probably the first example where, really the power of all that communication is just unleashed. And it has just grown from there to everything from, the teleconferences, the telepresence that we're doing today. We've held meetings that are across the globe in a telepresence environment like this. It's astounding. To the previous gentleman's point, you don't necessarily have to travel to be almost there. So it's phenomenal. And so I think that's two definite ways that work has changed. But the last thing I'll mention quickly is all the advent of communication technology and the internet has really given rise to the ability to do things that were never possible for the power grid, which is in my particular area. There are things that were just absolutely outside the realm of feasibility or cost that are now possible. And so it's a real exciting time to find new ways to take technology that, we have now come to take for granted, email and texting and things like that, and now being able to say, hey, what else can we do with it? What else can we do to make our lives better? And so that's really, I think, a third way that things have really changed for me since I've joined the workforce.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Dunn, you have the next question.
Oh.
What is the education necessary for someone choosing your career, and what college experience do most of your colleagues have?
So I have a bachelor's degree in applied physics and a PhD in materials engineering. And PhDs are typical for professors at my rank, but that is not what you need necessarily to go into nanotechnology. So there are people that I work with who have maybe only an associate's degree, so a 2-year college degree in electronics engineering. And these are people who do the day-to-day work of fixing the equipment or designing new pieces for the equipment, etc. So you don't have to stay in school your entire life just to get into nanotechnology. And obviously we then have everything that's in between the associates and PhD as well. There's bachelor's level and master's level. Really what the difference is between those educational ranks is how much independence you have over what you do on a day-to-day basis. So at the PhD level, there's really nobody who tells me what to do. I decide every day what I'm going to do and the people who work for me and what our goals are for our projects. The people under me have a certain amount of, their own independence about how they structure their day, but basically they have to fit into the program needs that I've defined, and so on down the chain. So it isn't necessarily even that they get paid a different amount. It's mostly about who gets to decide what we do for research. And that's pretty typical in the university environment, at least, but I think if you went and worked at IBM, the same thing would be true. You can easily work in a clean room without a college degree, so just with a high school degree, but your advancement and therefore the independence you have and your participation in decision making, those all increase the longer you stayed in school and the higher your final degree is. So think about those kinds of things. You can certainly get into high tech without having to stay in school for 25 years. And so I don't necessarily advocate that for everyone because there's a lot of interesting things to do out there already.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask you the same question, Elmira. What is the education necessary for someone choosing your career, and what college experience do most of your colleagues have?
Yeah, I have to second what Kathy said. We're kind of in a similar field, technology. She's working in nanotechnology. I'm working with biotechnology. And it pretty much comes down to how fast you want to advance and to what level you want to be when it comes to making decisions. Very right. So if you have a bachelor's degree, and it also depends if you're more into the biology or chemistry field versus engineering. Like for people who are in the biology or chemistry field, if you get a bachelor's degree, most likely most of the time you're going to be working as a technician. But that can be different. I mean, I've seen all different kind of examples.